Again, three guests today. We'll be going until 4:30, and so let's go ahead and get started. Our first guest, I actually, if I'm saying it right, actually, Rachel, you are from London, is what you told me, right?
I am, yeah, London, England.
Yeah, so Rachel is from London. I'll let her introduce herself, and then and I'm gonna disappear, and she's gonna give her presentation. Thank you for coming on, Rachel.
Yeah, my pleasure. Hello, everyone. I'm not sure where the audience are, but if you can put up with my British accent for the next 10 minutes, and that is wonderful. I'll try and pronounce everything as best as I can. So, I'm Rachel Rose. I'm a relationship and boundaries coach. I'm also a Reiki master and a shamanic and alchemy practitioner. So, my presentation is called Make Love, Not War, Transforming Conflict into Compassion. I think this is such an important topic, particularly when it comes to relationships, as we'll dive in to see how much of an important component conflict is and how much more of an important component conflict resolution is. So let's dive in. So, why do we as a society struggle with conflict? Well, it's really interesting because particularly in the British culture, we think about conflict, we think, oh gosh, that's uncomfortable. It very much comes from the patriarchal way of thinking in terms of anything to do with feelings or expressing your truth is something negative that needs to be pushed down. So when we buy into that kind of paradigm, what we're doing is pushing down what it is that we really want to say, our vulnerabilities, or anything that makes us seem too seen. We're pushing that down, and we're doing that just so we can have a bit more peace. Now, of course, this just buys us a little bit of peace, because whatever we don't resolve builds up. Resentment then builds up and builds up and builds up, and then before you know it, you've put all of you've made sure you have so much peace in your relationship that all it takes is one tiny argument where one or both of you are a ticking time bomb, and boom, the relationship in its whole entirety is in jeopardy, all because you didn't speak your truth the first time. Now, I'm going to just bust this myth right now, because I think a lot of people feel that, oh, okay, if, me and whatever, your partner is called, we don't ever fight, that is not a good sign. A relationship without any conflict is an unhealthy one. And I'm not saying a relationship where there's conflict consistently and it's quite clear that you're not compatible at all is healthy, but you need some conflict. And why do we need that? Conflict actually helps us build intimacy. It helps us get to know each other. It helps us actually move forward in the relationship. Now, the reason it does this is because all relationships are part of our spiritual awakening. So every single person that you encounter in your life has been specifically planted into your life path to help you up level. And conflict is just yet another catalyst where you can use that to grow as a person, use that to really get to know not only the other person, yourself, but really improve other relationships as well. So please don't fear conflict. In fact, learning about how to solve conflicts is going to be one of your superpowers from today, beyond, and in all areas of your life. So, we're going to be talking about some of the main ways that you can really transform how you actually look at your partner in a relationship, and also conflict in general, so that you can see it as your best friend and you can actually start expecting it, because guess what? No one is perfect. So you're going to run into those arguments, and why not be well equipped for them and ready to tackle them full on? So why don't we dive straight in? So, conflict resolution mindset shift number one. Don't believe that you shouldn't let the sun go down on your anger. So I was at my cousin's wedding at the weekend. It was so good. Oh my God. I wish I didn't have to go home, but I did. And the priest that did the ceremony, he said, you should never let the sun go down on your anger. And everyone was like, yes. And I thought, oh my God, that is the most toxic thing ever. And I'll tell you why. So when we think about emotions from a psychological perspective, We have emotions such as happiness, elation, excitement. They are way, way at the top of, let's call it, the emotional scale. And things like anger, sadness, deep depression are at the lower scale. Now, when I say higher and lower, we're not talking about good or bad. We're talking about frequency. So imagine, for example, we're talking about someone singing. So if someone sings quite low, then they just sing low, right? You don't see that as good or bad. And if someone sings quite high, then you just see that as someone having a high voice. Exactly the same with emotions. They're neither good or bad. So when we're talking about emotions and how human beings actually operate with these, expecting someone to go from supreme anger, when you really pissed your partner off, excuse me, I hope we can curse. I've cursed already. Okay, maybe it's too late. But going from extreme anger to, okay, everything's fine, is really unnatural. Sometimes, depending on the scenario, it is possible. You can jump that quickly because maybe it isn't so much of a big thing. Maybe you're both laughing about it and you can move on quite quickly. But there are going to be situations where you can't go from like completely angry with your partner and let down to, okay, it's fine, let's move on. And guess what? That's completely normal, because the only people that can shift that quickly from one spectrum to the other are those that have been clinically diagnosed with a mood disorder. So that just puts things into perspective for you, that this isn't something that you should be expected to do in every single dynamic. In fact, it's encouraged for you to really just sit with your emotions and tune in to see how you actually feel. I would really encourage you all to say to your partner, okay, how are you feeling right now? With my partner, we actually say, okay, I'm feeling a 3, or I'm feeling a 4, or I'm feeling a 5, whatever that is for you guys. You can agree on where you are, and then you can also agree on how you're going to come back. So the main thing that you want to focus on is nervous system regulation. So when we're pushing someone to go from 0 to okay, everything's fine again, we are really trying to push their nervous system into overdrive. And a dysregulated nervous system looks like irritability. It looks like digestive problems. It looks like insomnia. These are not great things. So giving your partner back that time to go and regulate themselves, and self-regulation can look very different for a lot of people. Sometimes people just need a nap. Sometimes they just need donuts. I know I need donuts when I want to self-regulate. Sometimes they just need a trip. Maybe that trip is a weekend. Maybe it's a week. The main thing is, don't make your partner wrong for their method of self-regulation, and don't make them wrong for not adhering to your timeline of coming back and talking about the situation again. So number 2, what's another mind shift that we can take? Mindset shift even. Do not rush to forgiveness and overuse the word sorry. So we've touched on this a little bit about the emotional scale and how extreme anger sits on one side and forgiveness sits on another. But let's talk about forgiveness as a process, because it's not just a matter of saying sorry. And I just wish more people understood that. Real forgiveness is all about really reflecting on what went down. What is it that's happened? What is it that can be forgiven by this person, in this case, your partner? And how can I also forgive myself? Sometimes we get so wrapped up in how we react in a particular situation that we forget to actually forgive ourselves. That's all part of the entire process. And we need to know, why, how this happened. And normally in a breakdown of communication, like conflict is, fundamentally, we have not been true to our integrity. We have not stood in our integrity in some point. And in that forgiveness process, when you're reflecting, this is when you need to step back and see, okay, when is the first time that I wasn't in integrity with myself? Okay, so instead of, just jumping in, saying sorry, overusing this word, instead, you really want to learn about your partner's core wounds. So essentially, when we're in conflict mode, our wounds are activated, and all of us have a mother and father wound to a certain degree. Again, because we're not raised by robots, everybody is imperfect in some way. And so learning about your partner's core wounds is really going to help you come from a place of compassion and love, and really help build emotional security when you're coming back and you've regulated yourself, I should say. and you're trying to solve this conflict, you're coming from a place where you're trying to build emotional security, knowing what it is that triggers your partner. And core wounds can look anything from like abandonment wounds. You know, was your partner raised by a very domineering parent, partner? I've been saying partner so many times. Were they raised by a domineering parent? You know, what was their parents' parenting style? All of these things will affect your partner's way of showing up in the relationship, the way they show up in conflict, and also their attachment styles in general. And another mindset shift for conflict resolution is not to hold on to past hurts indefinitely. So this is something that I think I've definitely worked on throughout my life. You know, you feel like you've won by holding on to them, like you did this, you did that, you did that. And all that is just toxic, not only for your partner, but also for yourself. So just think about some of the most successful corporations. I'm talking about like the big boys out there. They have so much data, so much personal data, like an infinite amount of data. They don't even keep their data indefinitely. Why? Because they're focused on expanding. They're focusing on, you know, being the most successful that they can year on year. That's not their focus. They don't really care about the past mistakes. They're learning from them. And for anything that's old facts that can't be reused and can't be alchemized into something positive, they're getting rid of. So this is how we need to really think, you know, instead of just holding on to all of these different grudges and all of these letdowns that we've had in a relationship, step away and remind yourself of the bigger picture. You know, does this particular situation make my partner, you know, such a bad person? You know, does this particular situation characterize how my partner is in general? You know, does it overshadow everything that they've done for me or how they show up for me or what we've built together? So just remembering that just takes you out of that survival mode where you're just so tunnel vision and focused on how hurt you are. You're realizing that actually this is just a really small blip. And as I said at the beginning of this session, that conflict is part of any relationship. So just expect it and gear yourself onto it. Oh, there's quite a lot of comments. Oh, okay. I'll ignore those. Right. So I hope that really helps all of you just really think about conflict in a much more healthy way. And for those of you who want to go a further step, if you're really curious about some of the things I've touched on, some of the psychology, some of the science, and some of the energy perspective, then I really encourage you, head over to my website and book a love compatibility report review. Now, in this report, you can do one of two things. You can get it just for yourself, or you can get it for yourself and your partner. But ultimately, you're going to get the same information in terms of what are the fundamental things that are coming up for me as, and I'll tell you the methodology I use. It's astrology and numerology, which have played a huge part in really healing so many relationship wounds and really seeing relationship for this spiritual experience that they are. You're going to see a lot of different patterns that are very inevitable and you're inherently born with, and knowing what it is that are going to be your weaknesses when it comes to conflict, when it comes to relationships, is really going to make you stand from a strong position regardless of what relationship you're in, because you know what triggers you, so you can stand in your best light, and then you can move forward to have that compassionate view when it comes to your partner as well. So I think we've timed. Yeah, because Thomas is back. Great. Wow. I can't believe I'm on time. I'm never on time for anything. So thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
Rachel, thank you so much. I appreciate you delivering. So you guys can see her contact information on the thank you page that she has on her slide, but then also I dropped it in the comments. If you're on YouTube, it's in the comments there. If you're on Facebook, either one, it's in all of that. And then also, if for some reason you can't get it through there, if you're rewatching this at a different time, you could always email me or message me, and I'll make sure that you have that information. Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Rachel. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Thanks. Have a good day.
Have a good. You too. So Rachel is actually 13 hours. I think we were doing the math earlier. She's 13 hours away from us. And so